Michael Williams of the Super Chat says, if you gave the two albums a combined score out of 100, what score is higher? Ready to Die and Life After Death or Illmatic and It Was Written? I would say Ready to Die and Life After Death, in my opinion. We're giving it a cumulative score out of 100, yes.
It's hard to do that because now you're talking about 23 tracks versus about 40 tracks. You understand that, right?
Because I feel like Illmatic's better than Ready to Die, but it's not by a
It
whole
is.
lot. But Life After Death is much better than It Was Written.
I don't agree
To
with
me.
you on either one of those stances. I do think, like, how about this? This is what I'm saying. Greatest rap album of all time. Top 10 rap album. No, that's a gap, Mike. The same way that's that's like saying that there's not a like Mike. What's the gap between Michael Jordan and Akeem Olajuwon? Like 1 to 10, because Akeem would probably be 10, Mike would be 1. Now, what's the gap?
Well, I'm not totally on the page that it's the best hip hop album of all time. I think it's definitely top five. But
What's better?
I would say to me, It Takes a Nation, a
That's
million
not the only thing you got.
better. Um, I think that there's a fair argument for an Akuma out there too. Um,
Mike, we did that with Mobb Deep. Now, if Mobb Deep was beating that Outkast stuff, what you think Illmatic's gonna do to it?
we didn't do that with Akuma though, did we? We
Mike,
did it with ATLians.
I love Aquemini, Mike. What they gonna take off of Illmatic other than One Time for Your Mind with West Savannah? They're not taking nothing else.
It's just a from end to end. It's just a
I
it
love
gives you a lot
Aquemini, Mike.
more. You know what I'm saying? Like the
It's
musicality
more.
of
If you're
it.
talking about, is it better put together? It's like
Yeah,
a
just
piece
like
of
from end
artistic
to end,
musical
it's
work.
very obviously Nas is the better MC on, what I'm saying, on that album if we're gonna go bar for bar. But if we talk about the collective musical experience, man, it's a hard argument for me to make
No,
to
Mike,
say
because
that it's
this is what
not.
I'm
You know
trying
what
to
I
say is
mean?
that every song you're talking about the album, but what I'm saying is that when your
Yeah.
album, when literally almost every song on there is a home run, Mike. Like it's like no,
I mean,
like every
same
song on
thing with
Aquemini isn't
Akuma.
a home run. Almost every song on this album is a home run.
What
Not just like
songs
a
on
10,
Akuma
Mike.
is in a
It's
home
like
run?
when the ball get Mike. It's like when the ball. It's when Bonds used to hit the ball out of the park. It's like, well, that's going in the water. That's what the songs on Illmatic are like. How many songs on Aquemini are like that, Mike? Where the ball goes into the water.
So Spodiote Doublelicious isn't a home run.
It's Mike. What is that compared to? It ain't hard to tell.
I don't know. Depends on who you ask, right?
No, Mike, I'm from down here. I'm trying to tell you, it's like
Depends on who
Illmatic was,
you.
and I want to talk about the Gip thing too, because when he was saying that, it's like, no, Illmatic got played in the hood down here. You know what I'm saying? I know that because niggas told me. You know what I'm saying? Like that ain't even me talking.
CJ Kid with the super chat said Mosaic Thump or Grind Day, a great lead in. If you want a commercial aesthetic sound for radio, only hip hop fans. Let's see what else we
How
got.
about this, Mike? Forget all that, because hold on.
I mean, because then I go the Chronic, Doggy Style, and Only Built for Cuban Links. I think that when you talk about those albums, it's like those albums are in the discussion. I don't think there's a
They're in the
clear
discussion.
cut.
Yeah. I'm
I
not
don't
saying
think
they're
there's
not
a
in the
clear
discussion.
cut best hip hop album ever.
No,
All I'm
I'm,
saying
no.
is
I get what you're
in the
saying, Mike. Like,
discussion, it's Illmatic, Only Built for Cuban Links. It Takes a Nation. I think Akuma's in the discussion.
okay, so
And I
Mike,
think
here's what I'll
that
tell you. Here's
Doggy
what I'll tell
Style's
you.
in that discussion
No.
too.
Here's
The
what I'll tell
Chronic,
you, Mike.
too.
Mike, take the 9 best songs from all of those albums that you just name. Take the 9 best songs. I'll take the 9 songs from Illmatic, and you can pick which one, Mike, and I'll beat you.
Think
You
so?
can pick, like, I don't care. Like, you can pick whatever you want to pick. Like, it's not going down like you think, Mike.
You think
like,
so?
Mike, you can pick 9 songs. Like, Mike, I don't think you understand.
And
7 of the songs on Illmatic are like literally timeless hip hop classic pieces, and you know it.
And I
New
feel
York
the
State of
same way
Mind.
about Paid in Full too. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like
Man, that's what I'm saying, Mike. It's like what you beating Life's a bitch with on
everything
Paid
on
in
Paid in
Full.
Full. What's that?
What you beating? Which that's what I'm saying, Mike. Like respectfully, Mike. Like my melody is like not better than Life's a bitch. You get what I'm saying? It's just not.
I don't know about that, man. I don't know about that, man.
Shit.
I feel you, but
Apparently
I
you
think
don't.
no. I think you're looking at this from a Nas number one type of lens, and
No, I'm
I
looking at it
think
from an
that
Illmatic is the best rap album ever type of lens.
I
That's not a
think that
Nas number
listen,
one thing.
I'm
That's the
telling you,
Illmatic being the
bro.
best
I'm
rap piece of
telling
work
you.
ever type of thing.
It's debatable. I mean, because my melody is heavy, man. Like again,
Not
depends on
Life's a
who you
bitch, Mike.
ask. I'm sorry. I think that in a
Mike,
in an
pick it
overall
then.
thing, I might vote for my melody over Life's a Bitch.
No,
Yes.
no, 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 Mike. This is what I'm saying. Is like we got a Patreon. I'll tell you what. We can make this Patreon like the last 4 weeks because we're about to move like to YouTube full time, and this is probably going to be the last month for the Patreon. Mike, you can pick it if you want because I was actually about to tell you, Mike. And
Let's
here's
do it.
exactly how I feel. I feel like I damn near might be able to beat you with Aquemini with It Was Written.
Nah, we're not gonna do
Okay,
that. But I'm
you
just
want to
saying,
do it
like,
though?
nah, I think that'll be a waste of time.
How so, Mike?
I
You
think
want to do
that'll-
an example right quick? Like, Mike, I hate to be the one to break it to you, Mike, but watch this. The Message or Return of the Gangster?
The Message.
Right. Mike, Street Dreams or Rosa Parks?
Rosa Parks.
No, Mike.
Rosa Parks is better than Street Dreams. It
It's
is what
not,
it is.
Mike. Mike, I Gave You Power or Skew It on the Bar?
Skew it on the Barbie.
Mike, you're going to lose. I want to do It Was Written versus Aquemini. If you think that Rosa Parks and Skew It on the Bar are better than Street Dreams and I Gave You Power, I want to go live and I want you to prove it.
Do you want to address this Paid in Full thing? Because you do know what the track list of Paid
Mike,
in Full
we can
looks
address
like,
the
right?
Paid in Full thing with Illmatic. We can address the
Because what
Aquemini
I
thing
would-
if It Was Written.
What I would rather do, I mean, all of that's kind of like side stuff. You think that if I pick the best 9 songs on It Takes a Nation of Millions, I'm not going to win?
Well, Mike, you were talking over me. I told you when you said It Takes a Nation of Millions, I said that's about the only thing you got. 'Cause
Okay.
I mean that shit. That's about the only thing you got. Like the rest of those albums you talking about? No, they're gonna lose.
What about
Like
Paid in Full?
The Purple Tape and It Takes a Nation of Millions, which by the way are two major collaborative efforts against one artist. I want you to understand that's why Illmatic is the greatest hip hop album of all time because you need collaborative efforts to beat his one effort. That's a solo mission outside of AZ.
Well,
you need.
I hear that, but it is a highly collaborative effort on the production end. Let's not act like it's not. I mean, when you got Pete Rock, DJ Premier, you got Large Professor and Q-Tip and LES as well. Like you got those 4 guys who are coming off and making classic efforts, basically producing the whole album. That's a collective too.
Mike, you need literally albums, the best rap albums from rap's 2 biggest squads, Public Enemy and Wu-Tang Clan, to go up against Illmatic. What does that tell you?
But wait a minute. What's more of a collective
Outkast,
effort?
Dungeon Family. Mike, listen to what I'm saying. Listen to me again. You need whole crews to go against this album. That's what makes it number one.
Listen to me. What's the more
Aquemini,
collective?
Mike, that's Dungeon Family all over there. That's not Big Boy and Andre the whole way
I'm not
through.
talking about that now. I'm talking about Public Enemy. What's more of a collective? You gonna let me talk? It's Chuck, right? He's the only MC on there, right?
And that's why I said that's about the only thing you got.
But again, what's more of a collective effort? Chuck and Public Enemy, the squad as a group, or Nas and Q-Tip, DJ Premier, Pete Rock, and Large Professor? Let's not sit here and act like that's not a collective effort too. That's a collective effort too.
You're talking about Public Enemy as if when that stuff is getting done and when they're recording and hitting the stage, like it's 1 or 2, 3 guys in the room. Mike, you sound crazy.
Well, no, you think that it's just 1 or 2 or 3 guys in the room with that collective that helped make Illmatic? That was a team.
Yes, Mike, how the stories go, that outside of Large Professor being there, those songs got recorded separately. The World Is Yours got made at Pete Rock's house. Large Professor did 2 of those tracks before this fucking album even got put in the mix. Q-Tip at Q-Tip's house. Yes, these albums got made by the producers by themselves outside of Large Professor showing up. So yes, when Illmatic got made, Mike, It's about 2 or 3 people in the room outside of the Primo sessions when Nas had literally niggas run into the studio.
It was a collective. Faith Newman, you had MC Search. They had full staffs on
Mike,
that joint. They
you talk,
did.
Mike, you're comparing a Public Enemy album getting made to Illmatic getting made and trying to seem like it's comparable hands involved in
It
listening.
was all hands on deck for Illmatic. They knew this guy was the next. Let's not. You're acting like it was one guy
Public
and
Enemy,
another
Mike.
guy in a
It ain't
room or
two dudes
something.
sitting
That's
in a
not
room,
what
Mike.
it was.
It's not Flav and Chuck and the producer sitting in the room. They literally deep all the time, Mike.
It was a collective, but I feel you. Rigorous
Wu-Tang,
7.
Mike. Dungeon Family, Mike.
Well, yeah. Now that was clearly all hands on deck. Now that's
So
different.
hold on. So is only built for Cuban links not all hands on deck?
Oh yeah, that's
Is
definitely all hands
Aquemini
on
not
deck.
all hands on deck?
Yeah.
If that's what you need to be Illmatic, then that means it's Illmatic because Illmatic does
I think
not
Illmatic's
have
a
all that
collective
help.
too. I feel like Illmatic's a collective of superstar producers as well.
Mike, but
The
you're talking
best
about the
producers of
I'm
its
talking
era.
about the songs by the artists. That's what I'm saying. You can go, Mike. Here's what I'm trying to tell you. How about this? When I said that it's only it takes a nation, because it's like, well, you're going to hear mostly Chuck. In order for you to beat Illmatic, it needs to be mostly one artist. Aquemini ain't built like that.
Well,
Only
let me ask you this.
Built like that.
Let me ask you this: if Illmatic wasn't such a collective and the producers weren't,
Aquemini only built for Cuban links is a better conversation.
I hear you. If Illmatic wasn't such a collective from a production standpoint, why didn't the other albums that followed in that era even come close in that way? The producers had a lot to do with how great that came together. And that's just it being a team environment. There's a vibe going on.
Mike, Illmatic got made. Large Professor was taking Nas around to these people. Stop making it seem like they running around here like Public Enemy or Wu-Tang or Dungeon Family.
Well, all of these people...
That's not the same thing, and you know it, Mike.
All of these people that you're talking about that Large Professor was taking Nas around to, they were a collective. Q-Tip, Large Professor, DJ Premier, and Pete Rock, they all used to trade records with each other. They would go vinyl shopping with each other. They would trade loops together. They were already a collective. And that's how that even got made in the first place. That's how a Large Professor knew who to go to. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, but let's not sit here and act like that wasn't a collective, all hands on deck situation as well.
Mike, you're so full of lies. Mike, when DJ Premier is recording New York State of Mind, are Q-Tip and Large Professor and LES in the room?
I didn't say they were in the room for each one. I'm saying that those guys were a
saying?
collective. What I'm saying is those guys were a collective as producers, and they would trade records. That's
Mike,
documented.
That's not the same. And this is exactly my point, Mike. That's not the same as the Glove and Dr. Dre and others sitting down in the room.
I never said
That's
it
not
was.
The same as
I never
RZA
said
and
it
True
was.
Master and half the fucking Wu-Tang Clan sitting in a room. It's not the same as Gip and Big Boy and Andre and CeeLo sitting in a room. Do not make it seem like that's the same shit, because it's not.
So if they did it outside of that room and then they brought it to the artist, that's different. Because clearly those guys were a collective together and they all hung out with each other and they all switched records. I think the Reminisce Over You record, that belonged to a Large Professor first, or it was at his house. Pete Rock got it from his house. So if they did those things behind the scenes and then presented it to the artist later, I guess that's different.
Can I tell you something, Mike?
Yeah.
How about this? What's your favorite DJ Premier beat? Because it's not on Illmatic.
Yeah.
What's your favorite Q-Tip beat? Because it's not on Illmatic. What's your favorite Pete Rock beat? Because it's not on Illmatic. Stop making it seem like that they helped him so flawlessly that they haven't done other greater stuff than what they did on Illmatic. Illmatic has none of those guys' best beats on it.
Well, this is the thing, Coop.
It's Large Professor's best beat on Illmatic. So none of these guys have their best beats on this album that you're telling me is a super producer team that helped this man reach these heights. Then why aren't their best beats on there?
I actually think Large Professor's best beat is on there.
It ain't hard to tell.
Yeah.
That's an argument. That's arguable. I think Man's a better beat than It Ain't Hard to Tell, though.
I disagree. But this is what I will say. That's how great those individuals are
Ain't
because
nobody trying to hear that
no,
shit,
no,
Mike.
no,
One
that's
Love
how
ain't no
great they
award tour.
are. It's like, no, that's how
One Love
great
is
they
not
are.
award tour beat wise. Stop making it seem like
Well,
they
you know
ain't
what?
just
I'll
doing
give
like
you
the best
this.
stuff that they had.
You know what? I never was a huge fan of the One Love track. I think that if you want to talk about there being a possible drop off from a super producer on that effort, and I think it flowed well with the rest of the album, and I think it's the only real concept song on there, right? I think the concept kind of carried it more than the production does, right?
You don't
On
say,
that.
Mike. The concepts carry the songs more than the beats do on that album. That's not them dudes' best stuff.
Again, I do think that some of Premier's best stuff is on there. And I do think outside of Trouble T. Roy, I think that The World Is Yours is Pete Rock's second best beat.
Mike,
Is
like I
that
said,
off?
so if these guys are super producers who help them so much, show me where their best beat is. Because if what you got is one beat from Large Professor and the second best beat from Pete Rock, that's two songs, Mike. That's not good enough for you to talk about this super producer team when these niggas are sitting around with Award Tour and the 10 Crack Commandments and a million and one questions running around. No. Mike, you was just sitting up here waxing poetic about people's instinctive
Mm-hmm.
and the drums on Can I Kick It. How are the drums on Can I Kick It as opposed to the drums on One Love? Which one you taking beat wise?
Oh yeah, I would definitely
I
say Can I
rest
Kick
my
It?
case. So them teams of super producers didn't give their best super beats. The
So
themes and
you're
the
saying
artists
that
carry the album. Mike, the themes and the lyrics and the artists carry the album, and you know this, Mike. Ain't
really? So
nobody calling
you think
Mike.
that
Ain't
hold
nobody
hold on, hold
calling
on, hold on.
Memory Lane a top five
Let
primo
me get
beat, and you
this
know it.
clear. Let me get this
Ain't
clear.
nobody calling Memory Lane no top five primo beat, Mike. Come on.
People love Memory Lane as a
No,
beat.
people love Memory Lane because of the shit that Nas is saying and how
Of
he
course.
sounds
Listen,
on that beat.
let me
But that
be
ain't no
clear.
top five beat. That is not no kick in the door or 10 Crack Commandments. Stop that.
Let me be clear. Obviously, Nas did his thing on the album, right? As an MC. But are you saying that you don't think that the production on Illmatic is stellar?
Mike, I didn't say that it wasn't stellar, but think about what makes something stellar. It has to fit the artist. Did they
Yeah,
do things that fit the artist? Well,
exactly.
yes, they did. That's the job of great production. But it's
Exactly.
very, very clear when you listen to Illmatic, the star of the show is not the fucking super producer team now, is it?
But that's what great producers are able to
Ain't nobody be listening. Mike,
display.
when we were sitting around listening to Illmatic, we wasn't sitting around like, oh my God, this is the best shit Primo ever did. Because he had already done Mass Appeal.
But
Ain't nobody
again,
walking around
that
saying that.
you're not listening to what I'm saying. That's what great producers are able to do. I always herald the job of production that Organized Noise did on Goody Mob Soul Food because they dialed down and they let the artists be in the forefront, let their stories be in the forefront. It takes a great producer to do that. And it was a
Mike,
great
where the cell
collective
therapy
of
beat at? Where the cell
producers.
therapy beat at on Illmatic, Mike?
New York State of Mind.
Stop.
You acting like the beats on Illmatic was trash or something.
They're not
I've never
trash,
heard
Michael.
this
Stop.
before.
Stop making. No, you talking about Illmatic being put together by this team of super producers. And Mike, what you
Yeah.
talk about how stuff sound on paper, I'm like, okay, what the beats sound like from the team of super producers though, and where their top five beats at on Illmatic?
Let me
Because
get
right
to
now
the
you gave
people.
me two.
Let me get to the people real quick so we don't get
You
lost.
wild, Mike.
Rigor Raw 7 with the super chat says, I can't wait for that Nas interview y'all finna get. We'll see. That'll be dope. And yeah, appreciate everybody out there on Twitter that was
Like,
mentioning this
you just tried
podcast.
to make it seem like what's holding Illmatic together, Mike, is the producers.
No, no, that's
Yo,
not what I tried
wild.
to make. And I don't want it to be conveyed like that. All I'm saying is music is normally a team effort, right? And I think that Illmatic, even though he is the star of the show, clearly, Illmatic had a team too. There's a Illmatic crew, and the Illmatic crew
Mike.
is Premier, Large Professor, LES, Pete Rock, and Q-Tip. Like, name the hip hop albums that have multiple producers. That we could just name the producers off the top of our head. Like, they did work, and they did a great job. And they did a
Mike.
job that, as a backdrop, has been very difficult to duplicate all the way up into what Hit Boy is doing. It is what it is. We can't disregard that. He's always been who he is.
Let's
Like
address
he's
it.
the greatest lyricist ever, straight up. You know,
And that's arguably one of the greatest lyrical performances ever on the
straight
mic.
up, straight up.
Okay, okay, so listen to what I'm about to say. I'm not saying that the beats are bad. The beats are great. It wouldn't be the greatest hip hop album ever, in my opinion, if the beats weren't great. But the way that you are referencing this, and you know how Illmatic was made, part of what makes this team of producers so special, and part of why it's so notarized, Mike, is because it was groundbreaking. Name the album before it that sounds this good, that has this many producers' hands on it. It literally became the way East Coast hip hop albums got made after it.
Yeah.
Big is in the process of making Ready to Die, and here's Illmatic, and that's why Unbelievable exists, Mike.
Yeah.
So stop making it seem like that it was the beats itself. It was
I
the
never
storyline
said
that came with
that.
it. Mike, that photo is a photo that got taken. Illmatic did not get made with all of those men sitting in the room like that together. The Chronic, Mike, no, listen to what I'm saying. The Chronic and Doggy Style did get made that way. The Purple Tape did get made that way. It Takes a Nation of Millions got made that way, Mike, with literally people in the room. In multiples, Illmatic did not get made like that. And you know it, Mike. You know that's just a picture. You know it's groundbreaking because producers didn't team up and do albums like this. This was the first time somebody heard Primo outside of Guru being on it, or people from the camp. This is the first time you heard somebody outside of the Native Tongues rap on a Native Tongues track from Q-Tip. That's what made it so groundbreaking. It was not the beats. Stop
I
that.
didn't say it was the beats. What I
You're talking about
said
this team of super producers like
exactly.
they said is the best heat of
But
their
see,
life.
cool.
They did not.
Cool. You're changing the whole argument
No, I
here.
heard what you said.
No,
You
this
talking about
is
this
what
team of
I'm
super
saying.
producers.
No, this is what
Like
I'm
they
saying.
walking
You
around
named
comparing beats and
everything.
making the beats together.
Cool,
You were
cool.
bugging.
No, but that is the truth. They were a collective. They did trade records together. So
They
I
trade
mean,
records in the record store, Mike.
no,
not in the
no,
studio
no.
while
They
making
they
Illmatic.
actually used to build together. They were a collective. Why do you think that that's who Large Professor went to? Because that's their crew. But that's beside the point. All I'm saying is you were making it seem like everybody else had huge teams and it was just one man. No, let me finish. And it was just one man who walked in the studio and made Illmatic himself without, discounting the great producers that are on that album. I just think that's inaccurate. It's not like he went in there with LES and made Illmatic. They did something. Eric Terrell, the super chat
Mike,
says,
he wrote New York State of Mind before he even met Primo. The first time that he spit it out on the track was the first time he had ever spit it out. Primo didn't help write New York State of Mind at all.
Of course. No one ever helps him write. That's not what I'm saying.
What's special about New York State of Mind, Mike?
The lyrics and the beat. If New York State of Mind is over another track, it might not be the same. We'll never know. But we can't sit here and just take the words in a vacuum and the track in a vacuum. If you have something great, it takes a collective to pull that together. Unless you're talking about a situation where somebody wrote and produced everything themselves, it's a team effort.
Were you listening to me when I was interviewing the Glove about how it takes a team?
Yeah. That took a team too.
How about this, Mike? Do you know how people talk about Dirk's championship with the Dallas Mavericks? They're like, that championship is different because the team was different in terms of how the team is designed. When I'm talking to Glove, he was really giving us insight to let us know that it's like, no, it's usually a team effort day in and day out to get it done. Listen to the things that Glove was saying. He's like, oh, no, what we did when we made nothing but a G thing, he's like, where was them girls at? Go get them girls. Where was the weed that we were smoking? Go get that weed. Like, that's what I mean when I'm talking about a team. And no, Illmatic didn't get made like that, Mike. There are literally videos and documentaries about how it got made. It didn't get made like that, Mike.
But again,
so when you're talking about this team effort, you're only talking about a team effort in terms of the linear notes. I'm talking about the actual process of making the music. The bad boy niggas I used to run with, when they used to see me recording by myself, they used to be like, hold on. They'd be like, hold on, we need to get in here. We got to get some people in here with you. You can't be recording this shit by yourself. That ain't how you do it.
Well, look, everybody has different work processes, right? You know what I'm saying? And maybe if Nas would have taken on the way that the Glove and Dre did their stuff for Illmatic, it might not have worked for him like that. And again, that's the genius of people working together in whatever capacity because they understand what works for that artist. If things weren't coming together like they needed to, yeah, they might have brought some broads in there, or whatever, and just livened it up. But whatever worked for them, it's still a team effort, whether it looked like a party or didn't. You know what I'm saying? Eric Terrell with the super chat says, "Coop, what Nas got for summer vacation? Ice Cube." Hmm.
I love Summer Vacation. Summer Vacation is shit.
Yeah, I love that album, man. Death Certificate's my shit. Mo Better Code with the super chat says, "I really want Logic and his producer Six to make beats for K Dot's next project. Logic and Six have always made beautiful, dope beats since 2014. They get it
Mike,
right."
I took some notes. I actually have a take similar to that.
Okay.
Hmm.
We're going to get to the logic too. 007 with the $20 super chat showing love says, "Mike, the collective effort was stellar. That has nothing to do with the MC. And usually when they produce like that, the MC doesn't match. You can say that Nas' lyrics is better than the output of the production. And that in itself is heavy. Of course."
That's not the case on those other albums you're talking about. You do understand that, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, the production on It Takes a Nation of Millions and Aquemini and Only Built for Cuban Links, Mike, those are arguably the three best executive produced albums ever, beat, sound, transition
You
wise.
think the
Along with the
production.
Chronic and Doggy Style. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, when you listen to the production wise, Mike, if you think Illmatic is the Chronic Doggy Style, Only Built for Cuban Links, Aquemini,
No, it's
or It
not.
Takes a Nation of Millions, you're bugging.
No,
So
no,
the
you're
fact that
right.
Illmatic is actually in the conversation with those albums that were that masterfully produced by 18 is exactly why I have it at number one.
You know
It
what
is
I
literally the
noticed though?
standout of the group.
You know what I noticed though when Elzai redid Illmatic with Illmatic, what was that, like 10 something years ago, and he had a band, I forgot the name of the band. Somebody in the chat probably knows. And they came in and replayed those records. Those records replay very well. And I think that the type of production that was
Timeless
on
thing.
Illmatic, as timeless as the themes and the lyrics and all of that are, the production on there was pretty timeless as well. You know what I'm saying? Like you
Oh,
could
shit,
really,
Mike, it's beat breaks and loops. It's
yeah,
what
yeah,
Nas
yeah. I'm
excels at. You
saying,
can play
and
that live
even the
forever.
melodies there, like, and you could have that stuff recreated by a live band. That's great production. You know what I mean? Like, it might not be the flashiest production. It may not be a million and one. It might not be chopped up crazy. But if you want to talk about like some just great production and great musicality, even when you listen to his Kennedy Center show where he was backed by the orchestra, all of those songs play well live, replay well live with an orchestra because they were
Here's
put together very well. They were well produced songs. You could
no,
hear when a well produced song's being translated over with live instrumentation. I think the only song on that album that doesn't translate that well live is One Time for Your Mind. But
I
everything else
know.
produced on there, I mean, the musicality's there in every
Let's not
form.
get it, Mike. Those are Enlarged Professor and Q-Tip and DJ Premier and Pete Rock. We have four of the 20 greatest producers ever on that album. So I'm not taking that away. What I'm trying to say is that if we're measuring a bar by a level, no. Matter of fact, before we even get to that, Mike, here's just the reality of the matter. New York State of Mind 2 is a better beat than New York State of Mind, but it's not a better song. Nas, Mike,
You
the
think that's why?
rhymes. Like when New York State of Mind, the original drops, it gets more reaction than part two. And it's not because the beat's better, because it's not, Mike. It's because you know when that beat drop what's coming. Rappers, I monkey flip them with the funky rhythm I be kicking. Musician, inflicting composition of pains. I'm like Scarface sniffing cocaine, holding the M16. See with the pen, I'm extreme. That's what people are waiting for, Mike. Because if it's about the beat, then they would play New York State of Mind Part 2. No, Mike, it's New York State of Mind because it's not. My rhyming is a vitamin held without a capsule. The smooth criminal on beat breaks.
I
That's the
agree
shit.
with
That's the
you.
shit,
I
Mike.
agree with you to a point, but I
It's
do
how
think
he's sliding on that
it
beat.
is, but it also is how dirty the first one sounds and how raw it sounds.
That's what I mean, is how he's sliding on it.
It's something about in hip hop when you retake something and you polish it up, it just doesn't have that same grittiness. You know what I'm saying? So I think even though from a technical standpoint, and we're gonna talk about this with Logic and stuff. From a technical standpoint, New York State of Mind Part Two as a beat is technically better, but
Yes.
people gravitate to the original beat more. Even if you were to take Nas's vocals off, if we were to sit here and have dudes out there freestyling, and they're like, "Look, you want part one or part two?" They're gonna pick part one. It's grittier.
No, Mike. They're
You
gonna
gonna
pick
pick
part
part two to
one.
rap
Mate, they're gonna
over
pick
part
part
one?
one because the competitive nature in them is gonna want to approach what they know is the better feat, which is his performance on part one. That's what I'm saying is so important about Illmatic. It's one of Mike. It's the greatest rap album ever because it's like listen to the beats on all the other rap albums, Mike, that are up there with it. It's like there ain't no ice cream. Mike, there's no ice cream on Illmatic, Mike. There ain't no bring the noise on no damn Illmatic. Mike, there ain't no nothing but a G thing on Illmatic, and you know it,
Yeah,
Mike.
and that's why I would have a hard time just straight up saying it's the greatest hip hop album ever.
Like
That's
you
why I
know
say it's
that,
in the
Mike.
conversation.
But you know all these things that you were up here tripping.
I'm just
Mike,
being
how about
real,
this?
man.
Here's the best way I can frame it. So a lot of people, DJ Premier is the pinnacle of East Coast producing and production, right? The 3 beats that he gave Biggie are better than the 3 beats he gave Nas on Illmatic, except the facts. Unbelievable, Kick in the Door, and 10 Crack Commandments are better than New York State of Mind, Memory Lane, and Represent. Tell me I'm wrong.
Say that again.
I said Unbelievable, Kick in the Door, and 10 Crack Commandments are better than New York State of Mind, Memory Lane, and Represent as far as the beat.
I don't know about that, Coop. I think if I were to rank
Crazy,
those,
Mike. Unbelievable is absurd.
if I'm gonna rank those, me personally. It's just
New
me.
York State of Mind, the only one making it.
I'm gonna go Memory Lane number one. Then I'm going Unbelievable. Then I'm going New York State of Mind, and then I'm gonna go 10 Crack Commandments, Kick in the Door, and then Represent. Even though I love Represent as a song. And see,
Mike,
you know
the way
what
your
I
public
think,
behavior is very
I
problematic.
think Represent is that clear example of what you're talking about. I think Represent, Nas carried that beat. Now that song on Illmatic, to me, every time I've always listened to Illmatic, I'm like, yo, he carried this beat. Because even that being a premiere track, it's like, it's pretty basic for a premiere track.
Mike, use a MC, Mike, back in the day, or at heart still, Mike. If we walking into the yo, and you listen, if we get a tape of beats, like let's say they came from 3 different producers, and
Right.
you was like, this is this producer, and this is that producer. You would take the Biggie songs, Mike. If you had to take a 3-piece, you take the Biggie songs. Stop playing. Like, use an MC. Ain't no way that you hearing fucking Unbelievable. And Mike, just off Unbelievable and 10 Crack Commandments and the way they drop, you're like, give me that.
I could see Unbelievable being number one.
That,
I think that, and I think that I might be kind of, biased to what Nas actually did to Memory Lane. Now, I will give you that.
I'm
but
biased
as far
to it more
as,
than all of you niggas.
But
no.
as far as the other tracks, though, I think the Memory Lane and New York State of Mind are better than the other tracks. Now, Unbelievable, I think that could be.
See, you're talking about Nas, Mike. That's what I'm saying. Like, actually, remember when Q-Tip was on his show and he played the original beat, The Memory Lane?
Yeah.
That's a better beat than the beat, The Memory Lane, that made the album.
You think
it's the way Nas is sliding on that beat. I'm going to say that again. It's not the fact of where the beat is, it's the way he's sliding on that beat. The way that he slides on that Memory Lane beat, even though that other Memory Lane beat is better. That's why I'm telling you, it's about Nas more than it's about that team of super producers that you're referencing.
Well, we got to move on. I don't even know how we got here.
I don't even know how we got here because you tripping, Mike.
Let me get to Leroy Green. Leroy Green with the super chat says, "What up, A2HH? Coop, Death Certificate versus Illmatic. Let's go." Also, fans should read Born to Use Mics about Illmatic. But yeah, the production was stellar. Let's see what everybody else got to say.
Mike, the production is stellar. Is it Doggy Style or Chronic level?
Well,
is it Takes a Nation of Millions or Purple Tape or Aquemini level? Then understand it for what it is.
I think this is when you ask that question though, Coop, and this is where I go with it because we could debate this forever, and that's why this show is great.
Don't nobody be playing the beats, Mike. How many beats from Illmatic was on the mixtapes back in the day?
Let me finish, Coop. Let me make my point.
10 Crack Commandments everywhere.
When you're looking at it,
Unbelievable was everywhere, Mike. Everybody was rapping Unbelievable.
Coop. When you look at it in that way, sure, but there's more to being a great producer than just putting down the best quote unquote beats in a vacuum. The production job they did fit the artist so well, it makes Illmatic what I call the most easy listening, the most lyrical, easy listening album hip hop has ever seen. And the producers are largely responsible for that. Now, obviously, he did his thing and it flows incredibly, but the way that they produce this, it's not about isolated individual beats. They actually did a production job in producing the artist and they knew the talent they had in front of them and they
Hey,
brought the
Mike.
best out of it.
Mike, hey, Mike, I'm just going to play devil's advocate at this point.
Go ahead.
If the beat's so stellar on there, then why the fuck that shit didn't sell like those other albums that we talking about, including It Takes a Nation and The Purple Tape? Don't even get Aquemini and Doggy Style in the Chronic in the conversation, which are multi-platinum albums. The Purple Tape, which did 800,000 the first year, literally almost tripled the output of Illmatic sales-wise. If them beats so fire, Mike.
I would like to answer. What sells records, in my opinion, are what sells. What? Can I answer? Can I answer? Let me answer. What sells albums is hit records. And if we look at all of those albums that you're talking about that sold, Illmatic doesn't have a hit on it to the level of those songs. And it's not because it lacks production power. It's just was, produced very well. And those songs just weren't hit records. A lot of my favorite songs weren't hit records. It is what it is. Hit records sell albums, especially in that era. You talking about The Chronic?
What's the hit record on the Purple Tape that pushed it to 700,000 copies that's bigger and better than what's on Illmatic? And keep in mind, before you say Ice Cream, that's the fourth fucking single, and the album was already gold by then.
Yeah. Well, this is the other
Glaciers of Ice and Criminology were the singles.
Yeah, and Incarcerated Scarfaces is out, right?
Same time.
I think what we have to understand about them and
Incarcerated Scarfaces, Mike?
Huh?
Incarcerated Scarfaces? You think that's commercially viable or is that hip hop?
I think that's on brand with Wu-Tang.
How that beat sound, Mike?
Let me finish. Can I explain why?
Beat the Incarcerated
Are you going to let me answer your...
every beat on Illmatic.
Cool, are you going to let me answer your question? The reason why they actually sold records is because, again, they're part of a collective that already had a fan base and it was already selling records. We've seen this type of thing happen. We've seen this type of thing happen with the G Unit. We've seen this type of thing happen with the Shady. When you already have a fan base with the Wu-Tang and you've already sold all these records, you already have a built-in fan base that's going to be checking for your shit automatically. So, yeah, when they drop stuff and they drop quality stuff, they're going to do numbers. They come from the Wu-Tang tree, so it's a little different. Mike H with the super chat says, I'm with Coop on this, but you two are cooking right now. Eric Terrell with the super chat says, Coop, Me Against the World is better than Illmatic.
No, it's not. Stop tripping. Listen to what I'm saying.
That I disagree.
This is what I'm saying. Mike, these other albums, they usually elicit responses beat-wise that Illmatic doesn't elicit. That's what I'm saying. Like, Mike, when you heard Incarcerated Scarf, when you heard the beat drop, it was like, oh. When Ice Cream drops, oh, Glaciers of Ice. Oh, Mike, Skewing on the Barbie. Oh.
Yeah.
Spody Only Dopalicious. Oh, Mike, every fucking beat drop on It Takes a Nation of Millions is like, oh, this is a concert.
I think the beat on Illmatic that does that for me is It Ain't Hard to Tell. And it always has been that
Mike,
song. But, yeah.
So Mike, let's just be honest. If It Ain't Hard to Tell is like the best banger on Illmatic, beat-wise, then I win. Point
How
made.
So?
Because where does that fit in the reference of those other banging-ass beats from those other banging-ass albums, if we're just being honest?
Again,
let's just break it down to the beats. Let's take the rhymes out and let's make it about the beats.
You're not listening to me. I said it's not even about the beats in a vacuum. I'm saying they made production that fit what the artist was doing. And you know what I'm saying? And so it's not about, I'm sure maybe they had some beats that were harder than certain beats. You heard that, and I think the perfect example is that Q-Tip version of Memory Lane. yeah, that beat's hard, but
That
they
is
were like,
stupid.
yeah, that beat was crazy, but they were like, look, to fit what we're doing and fit what he's doing, we're gonna need something a little bit more mellow. We're going with this, and they made the right decision. But in a vacuum, like you said, those two beats invoke something different. And they made the right production decision. That's the producing job. The producing job is not just making the hottest beat. You also have to fit with the artist. And like you said,
No,
this
I'm
is a
just saying if
different.
they super
And
producers and this is
yeah, exactly. And like you
no, you always
said,
talk about the job they do on Illmatic like they gave them like they gave him their best beats.
it's not about the beats. It's about the production job
It'd be
they
about the
did.
beats with everything else. Like it'd be about
No,
beats,
it's
Mike.
about look. It's about what they
Nothing but a cheap thing
did.
about the beats.
Look who you finished. It's about what they did as producers. You know what I mean? And as you've highlighted, this is the first time this many producers were called to be on one album. So it was very important for them not to go out there trying to outblast each other. This was about the artist. This is when you become a great producer to go in there and say, you know what? This is competitive still, but I'm not going to go out here trying to, go out here trying to show out and play a Welcome to the Terror Dome. This ain't about me. This is about this lyricist. And they did a great job with that. They should get credit for that. It's not taking any credit away from Nas, but it's not acting like they didn't exist either, That's all I'm saying.
I'm just saying, David Ruffin, and they are the Temptations. Next topic.
And that's fine. But the Temptations actually did something too.
No, the Temptations were great. They could sing too, David Ruffin.
Yeah.
All right.
Eddie Kendrick was dope. All right.
Not David
What
Ruffin.
is it? Staff with the super chat says Esco's verse on Life's a Bitch is better. He sounds effortless and free flowing, unlike AZ, who clearly is trying. The smoothest verse Nas ever spit in my
I don't know
opinion.
how we got the critique in Illmatic.
You know what? I'm not mad at that assessment.
Nobody even listening to that.
Even though I think the AZ's verse is probably one of the best verses ever. I think a lot of people discount Nas's verse on that song because of, like you said, it's Illmatic. He's consistent. He's rapping like this the whole time. But I woke up early on my born day. I'm 20. It's a blessing. The lesson, adolescent keeps my body now refreshing. And again, that's him being a great lyricist too. Knowing that my man just spit the verse of his life, and I'm not over here trying to quote unquote out rap him, but I'm coming with a quality verse. You know what I mean?
It's a top 10 rap verse ever. It's a lot of top rap verses ever on that album, Mike.
You think AZ's Life's a B is a top 10 rap verse ever? We actually just reposted that show that we did like 2-3 years ago with the top 10 best rap verses, and I think his verse was in there. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a top 5, wasn't it?
I believe so.
But they might have came in 6 or something like that. Yeah, but it's up there. Yeah, it's up there.
Yeah. 36 Chambers.
So it's half the shit on Illmatic, though. But whatever.
36 Chambers with the super chat says, I remember
when we're doing the best beats ever, Mike. When we're doing the best beats ever, how many beats from Illmatic are going to make the top 50?
You're pulling beats out in the vacuum. If we're talking
beats
about...
Beats matter. It's called Beats, Rhymes, and Life. That's the name of the Tribe Called Quest 4th album.
Production matters.
Rhymes.
Now, no. Let me put this in context. Yeah, what you said, correct. But if we talk about the best production jobs in hip-hop, this album should be named.
Yes.
So production matters. But beats matter too.
Albums that are in the conversation with this album also boast stellar ass beats that are some of the best beats we've ever heard. Do you understand that?
That wasn't
that they have the same thing that Illmatic has in terms of production quality, and they got some of the best beats you ever heard. Mike, would you like to run down this whole Glaciers of Ice, Ice Cream, Incarcerated Scarfaces thing again?
So what
are we talking about?
You think if those beats were on Illmatic, then it would flow like it did?
We're gonna go to the next.
You know what I'm saying? No, that's a production decision. That is. You think if Pete Rock gave him Trouble T. Roy, then that flows in the Illmatic scheme of things? No, that wasn't the assignment. That's when being a great producer comes in at. And we can't discount that. 36 Chambers with the super chat says, I remember seeing that all 4 producers on Illmatic did collaborate, knowing that they were putting together something special for Nas. They knew that it would be legendary. My understanding was they collaborated.
Where the co-production credits?
Rigorol 7 with the super chat says S.B said Cool Pac back I'm rolling. Back I'm rolling. All right. 36 Chambers says Hip Hop Evolution documentary touches on that collaboration.
Mike, do you understand? Hold on. How about this? What do you think about the beat the verbal intercourse, Mike?
I like it. I don't like it as much as you do. I don't. I think we had a debate. You were saying that verbal intercourse beat was better than it was something, and I was like, nah. I like it. I mean, I think that if we talk about on the
How
purple
about this?
tape,
If we were putting verbal intercourse on Illmatic beat wise, where would it register?
I think The World Is Yours beats better.
I do too.
I think that It Ain't Hard to Tell's beats better.
I agree. I tell you, New York State of Mind is probably better to me too.
I actually, and maybe that's just the soul in me, man. And and I got to give LES props here. I like Life's a Bitch beat better. I do. Now, if you disagree, I'm not, mad at that.
You like the? Hold on, I
like Memory Lane's beat better too.
I just don't want to talk to you really too much anymore, Mike. We're just gonna go to the next subject, finish up the show, wrap up. No, ain't no damn Life's a Bitch.
Coop's mad at me now.
Of course, Mike. Eye for an eye. That beat.
Darren Harris with the super chat says, when Illmatic drops, I don't remember anyone being blown away by the beats. All we kept doing was rewinding the tape to catch. Y'all heard what he said?
Thank you. Couldn't catch me in the streets without a ton of reefer. That's like Malcolm X catching the jungle fever. There wasn't shit about
I agree with what you guys are saying, but what I'm saying is that was the production assignment. You know what I'm saying? Like, we want to make beats that are the backdrop for his life. And we need
to be on the assignment of covering these albums.
Yeah, let's cover these albums. CJ
but
Kidd.
All I know is that One Love ain't even a top 10 Q-tip beat, but whatever.
CJ Kidd with the super chat says, beat for beat, Moment of Truth is greater than Illmatic.
Easy.
Andrew
First
Green.
8 beats.
Andrew Green with the super chat says, the Represent beat on Illmatic is actually a remix. Primo did an OG version with jazz samples. Primo did another beat after hearing Tips and Pete Rock's beat. Nas preferred the OG, but Primo swayed him.
Hold on, listen to what he's saying. After hearing Q-Tips and Pete Rock's beat, because he wasn't there.
Mm-hmm. But that's still a collective, though.
Case dismissed. Collaborative.
That's still a collaborative effort. When everybody's hearing everybody's stuff.
He made something different because he wasn't there to collaborate for those other songs.
Well, this is the thing, though, Coop. Usually in non-collaborative, usually in non-collaborative situations like that, you never hear the stuff until the album comes out. So the fact that he heard it before the album came out lets you know there was some collaboration in there.
That's competition. That's competition, Mike.
But yeah, competition. That's
collaboration.
Too.
My ass, competition. They got the best young MC in New York coming out. They all want to shine. You can call it collaboration or call it competition. They used to talk about how they used to go into the record store and try to one-up each other. Keep on calling it collaborative.
Well,
I call it competitive.
Again, that's what Large Professor, Faith Newman, and Search called them for.
Che Noir album is really good, Mike.
It is. I like it.
Andrew Green for it.
Andrew Green with the super chat says, which beat do y'all prefer? The World Is Yours or Tips mix or Pete's? I like Pete's. And Tips my guy.
I'm still going Pete too.
Yeah, I like the remix though. Mad Max with the super chat says, you dismissed Me Against the World, and I'm not gonna lie, it plays well next to Illmatic. It just drags until the end, but the first 10 songs are equal to or greater than Illmatic.
Some of what make Illmatic so great is the conciseness of it. It does that. It does have that over the albums that it gets mentioned with. It's not as long and thereby not subject to certain critiques that maybe you could give the Chronic or Cuban Links or an Aquemini. That's a fair perception, and I agree with Mad Max that Me Against the World first 10 songs is about as stellar as it gets. What I would submit to him: right artist, wrong album. All Eyes on Me, Volume 1.
Gonna cut the album in half. Uncle
Cut it
Fram
in
with the
half.
super
Top 10
chat
rap album,
says,
easy.
Uncle Fram says, Coop, a super producer team with a young prodigy was a gossip on every was the gossip on every New York corner before Illmatic dropped. Yeah, Uncle Fram said, yeah, the super team of producers with a young prodigy was the gossip on every New York corner before Illmatic dropped.
Super team of producers. That doesn't mean they were collaborating. That doesn't mean that Pete Rock and Q-Tip helped make The World Is Yours together. That didn't happen.
But they're super
Q-Tip
producers,
didn't
so
help
they didn't
Primo make New
have
York State of
to.
Mind. Do you understand that?
You
Do we
know,
understand that? The
I'm
collaboration
gonna
happened
say
between
this, and we're
DJ
gonna.
Premier and Nas.
I'm
Then
gonna
the
say
collaboration
this.
happened between Q-Tip and Nas.
I'm gonna
Then,
say this, and I think we can move
no,
on.
no, no.
I personally think, and we'll never know. I think that it worked to their advantage that they weren't. Q-Tip and Pete Rock weren't making The World Is Yours together. I think that they all were able to shine and bring their own individual elements to this child prodigy, and without any interruption, and you got the raw them, and I think that is what elevated it. I think that if they would have worked together, them being the super producers that they are, I think that that would have probably been adverse for the
So you're in
creative
agreement
process.
with me that this is more about competitive fervor than collaboration that's going on with this super producer team.
I think that yeah, it's probably more competitive fervor, but I also feel like that competitive fervor is still part of a collective, like I said in the beginning. I think that that is the benefits of having a collective talented squad. Like people do that in workplaces all the time. Make the situation competitive so they can get more work done. You know what I mean?
Yes,
And
we're
let's not
trying to
act like
practice.
all I'm saying is we're not gonna act like there's not some level of a team that helped put Illmatic together to make it the way it is.
No,
Like,
I mean
yeah,
nothing happens alone.
yeah,
Glove said that. No, it's
yeah,
always going to be some sort
definitely.
of team effort.
And
I'm
I'm in
saying them
agreement
team
with that.
efforts. I'm just saying them team efforts is a little different in terms of how they play ball. You
I
know,
just don't think that, and I say this respectively. Collectively, does Public Enemy have Q-Tip, Pete Rock, DJ Premier, and I mean, so Chuck D is Nas in that situation, right? So it's like, does Chuck, from a production standpoint, have Q-Tip, Pete Rock, DJ Premier, and Large Professor at the boards?
no, but he has more minds in the room.
Okay,
That's what I'm
but
saying. There are more
do you
people.
not? So you're
There are more. How about this? There are more Chris the Glove Taylors in the room when these albums are getting made. That's kind of what I'm speaking to. There's more
okay.
gloves in the room.
So
It's
you
like there's
don't.
not just a
Let me ask you
Dre.
this.
There's a glove in these rooms.
So you don't think that
In some of
Premier
these
has
cases,
a?
glove was in the room. In
You
some of
don't
these
think
cases, some of these albums, glove was in the room.
you don't think Premier has a glove? You don't think that Pete Rock has a glove? You don't think that Large Professor and Q-Tip have a glove?
Mike, I'm ahead. I've been digging. Why do you think I wanted to talk to the glove when I started digging, Mike? That's what I'm saying. So like, no, not that I'm privy to. I mean, like there
I
are
think
guys that put
Q-Tip
guys on
does.
to stuff like Buck Wild, Lord Finesse, like a lot of these guys, and they've helped a lot of these guys, and like there's been a thing, but like no,
You
like
know,
have I ever heard any stories? And maybe that's some of that New York State of Mind competitive nature. I've never heard about these guys sitting in the studio together to collaborate to make damn near anything.
so you don't think, and maybe we can research this, right? You don't think that there were anybody that DJ Premier made, a New York State of Mind represent or memory lane around? Like, you don't think he
Hold on, Mike. Mike, this
made
is
it
what I'm
around anybody?
saying. The stories like that come to light. Here's what I'm saying. Let's keep it Queens. Let's go to Q-Tip. Well, Mike, we now know very, very well that the reason Havoc is so goddamn good with his drums is because on the infamous Mike, Q-Tip came in and helped and showed Havoc and even reworked some of the drums on some of the songs that were already done and obviously did give up the goods and drink away the pain. Mike, we know these things. So if these other guys had a Havoc, don't you think we would know?
I'm not saying had a havoc per se, but having somebody in there, because from the interview that you did with Glove, from my understanding, it's people in the studio who may not be, actual producers or beat makers, but they're hip hop fans, and you could tell what's hot by what they're reacting to. You don't think that Premier, Pete Rock, Q-Tip, and Large Professor have a soundboard of people that are around? Like, yo, when I put this on, let me see what their reaction is. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, yes, yes. Of
Yeah.
course I do. But what I'm saying in relationship to the conversation that we're having, well, that's not the same as But Mike, how about this? That's not the same as Outkast recording the song Aquemini.
Oh no, no, I know.
And
Yeah, Outcast is out of the
listen,
discussion with this.
no,
I
no,
know
no, no,
that's
no.
a
Listen to what I'm
collective.
saying. Not even with that, Mike. It's different when you're recording a song. Where the team really comes in, Mike, isn't when the song get made, Mike. When the song done, or while the song's getting made. There's not a big gip around Nas for Illmatic the way there's a big gip around Outkast for Aquemini. Raekwon and Ghost have each other. They also
Yeah.
have Method Man right there, who's a platinum artist by now. They have RZA by now, who's on project technically number 4 by now. Yeah, that's different, is all I'm saying. Public Enemy got a whole crew in the Nation of Islam behind them, Mike. It is not the same thing. They got their crew and they got the Nation. No, that's not the same
I
thing
think
as
the only
bringing some
thing we
niggas.
can really
Mike, that's not
compare
the same
this
as
to.
bringing some niggas from the bridge who don't rap into the studio with AZ. It's not.
Now, this is what I will say, and I think that the stories that I've heard about Paid in Full being put together, it literally sounded like it was Molly Mall in there and Rakim in there, sitting down in a chair, rapping with what they were called No Energy at that time, and just going to the next track.
Okay, so Mike, let's go to Paid in Full right quick. Rakim has stories about recording My Melody and about how Shan is there literally critiquing him and Marley is critiquing him like, you gonna rhyme like that on the record?
He's
See,
like,
that's what
yeah.
I'm saying. Like, even though that was like a detraction, no, 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 no. Like, Shan was there when My Melody was being made.
So you don't think Jungle
Who don't
Nobody was there when Illmatic was
They
being
don't
made?
rap, Mike. Shan raps. That's what I'm trying to say. You got other artists and MCs and creative minds, not just dudes from the block. Everybody gonna have dudes from the block. I'm talking about the creative minds who MC that are actually there. So that's why when you're talking about Aquemini, Mike, it's like, no, Mike, like that's 1998. They got Goody there. They
That's
got
true.
Breeze there. They got Witch Doctor there. Witch Doctor could have been like, hey, that drop on Mama Cita ain't right. Fix that right quick. Nas
The-
didn't have
Now
that.
let me ask you this though: does that make the album any lesser because there were more hands on it? It's kind of
No, I
like the
don't.
it's kind of like the Michael Jackson Prince argument I've always had with many Prince fans, where it's like, yeah, Michael had a lot of people in there, where Prince had more of a minimal, but it's like, okay, well, when you listen to the finished product, does that? I mean, do we even factor those things in, or are we just listening to the music as they are?
How about this? And there's something to be said about it on both sides. But when it comes to the creative process, Mike, well, I've always told you this. If I was picking, if we were like splitting hairs, and of course, when you're talking about Prince and Michael Jackson, you're splitting hairs, and it's like, oh, well, who has Prince been in the studio with that's comparable to Quincy Jones?
Right.
End of discussion. Wendy and Lisa, as much as I love some damn Wendy and Lisa, Mike, that's not Quincy.
Mm-mm.
That is a little bit of a leg up. And all I'm saying is that, well, when you have an organized noise and a goody mob and a witch doctor and a cool breeze and a big Rube, and then even at the time, like ancillary factors like Erica Badu, Joy, like when you have these people,
Deborah Killings.
not Mike, listen to what I'm saying, not just listening to the music, but they're artists too, so
Yeah.
they're contributing their critique to their sounds. Big Gip has said multiple times, y'all don't know how many times I've contributed to a song you have never even heard my voice on. Ain't no flow, ain't no conversation like that about Illmatic, Mike.
Well, no, Aquemini was clearly a collective, and it sounded like it.
It's
Like,
usually is, and there's nothing wrong
yeah.
with that, Mike. The Chronic and Doggy Style has Told by the Glove collective efforts, Mike. The Purple Tape is a collective effort featuring Nas. He's the only outsider let in. These are all collective efforts. Those feel more like collective efforts than Illmatic, and we know this. That's
And
all
I
I'm
feel
saying.
like I can hear that too. And it's like,
You
for me,
can.
it makes me put the album higher because I'm listening to, like Glove was saying, right? When you have more minds in the fold, then the music's just going to sound grander because somebody's going to hear something that that other person didn't hear, and that other person's able to add this, and you
Yes.
just get way more perspectives. And at the end of the day, I feel like the end product benefits from it. And that's not to knock any,
And you're
other
right.
project, but what I'm saying is like, I don't know, I guess I can just hear all those efforts. But if we're talking about a straight up MVP for an album, yeah, Nas on Illmatic, straight up.
See, well, okay, so that's where I split hairs because when I look at all the other albums that are in that conversation, Mike, which is literally like all of those albums that we talked about, maybe except for Paid in Full.
Right.
Paid in Full is the only one that's comparable to Illmatic, not only in length, but in terms of how it was put together, in terms of the brevity of creative minds of artists being involved. So I don't knock the other albums. I give those albums an extra leg up because of it. So it's not knocking the other albums down. It's like, well, if this album is comparable, Mike, that's like Jordan's 37 5-5 season. I think it's like 37-6-6 season.
Yeah, something like that.
37-6-6, and then he had a 32-8-8 season. It's like, no, Mike, the numbers are great, but when you go look at the team and then you realize those teams actually made the playoffs, you're like, how? That's more like Illmatic is. The Chronic and Doggy Style are like the Showtime Lakers. You get what I'm saying? It's like you got James Worthy, you got Kareem, you got Magic. You get what I'm saying?
Well, I hear what you're saying, but I guess I
the
get
Dungeon Family, Mike. That ain't no regular team.
I get conflated when we talk about the producers, and we can't act like they're just some, pedestrian
But that's what
producers.
I mean about when I was talking to Glove, Mike, and you heard it. It's like it's not just about the producers. It's not just about Dre coming in and doing the beat. It's about everybody in the room. How many people in the room for the Purple Tape? And It Takes a Nation of Millions, and The Chronic, and Doggy Style. Mike, Life After Death.
We don't know. I don't know.
We want to talk about some people in the room, Mike. There's stories about how many people in the room. DMX and Cam walked into sessions when Life After Death was happening and have told stories about them being unknown and meeting big. I believe Cam was at the session for Notorious Thugs. If
So
memory serves.
nobody was walking in the Illmatic sessions.
Mike, we would have heard the stories if that was
Okay.
true outside the nigga A.
Okay.
Like, think about it. Big's there recording Brooklyn's Finest with Jay for Reasonable Doubt, for God's sake. It's like, no, that's different.